So a lot of the talk around the world, and especially in the video game world, even a little bit in the, movie or collectibles world, is what is better, digital or physical? And you have to add a third player into this conversation, which I feel like a lot of people aren't, and that's streaming and or subscription services. So a lot of talk in the video game world is around, should I buy a physical version of a game, a digital version? Do people care about having subscription services where you don't actually own the game? What is the real deal with that? What's the best option for me? So today I'm going to break all of that down. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload, and let's get right into this video. So the way I want to structure this is kind of just taking a look at the objectional view of each form of entertainment, how you can actually play your video game. So we're going to look at the pros and cons of physical, digital, and then if you're going to just have a subscription service, because all of us have a different viewpoint on this, and we're all different types of consumers, and some of us we do all of them or a combination of each, or it's situational. So I'm pretty much going to go through each pros and cons, and then you can make your judgment or decision just based off of what I'm saying. I'm not telling anyone what to do, but I'm just giving you all the facts and information, and then you can make an informed decision for yourself. So let's start off with the physical side of video games. So we've seen with this new generation, we had Microsoft and Sony both put out digital only versions of their systems, which is probably the first time ever. The Steam Deck, of course, came out, and that's digital only, but that's because Steam doesn't actually produce video games. It's a PC centric type of ecosystem. When the PS5 came out, the disc version was $500, and then the digital only version was $400. And I think it was smart for both Microsoft and Sony to come up with this, because some people care for disc, some people are moving towards digital. So when it comes to physical games, I think you need to look at it based on a few factors. So the pros of it, first of all, is that you just have the most versatility and autonomy over your collection, over your library, on what you want to do with your video games. So when you buy a physical game, you can sell it back, you can let a friend borrow it, you can trade it, you can do pretty much anything with the game. If something happens to your system, or if you get a backwards compatible system, you can then play that game in that system. So there's just like a lot of options when it comes to that. The other pro is that you can find games a lot cheaper, secondhand, whether that's through a friend, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, which I use a lot, especially for used games. It's like there's just so many more avenues nowadays, when back in the day it was kind of like you could only get a physical game from a big time retailer like Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, or GameStop infamously, and not really get that much money on your return when you trade the game in. So now there's so many options, and you don't really get that option if you don't have a physical copy of the game. Now another pro that I'm not entirely super well versed in, but that is just like investment. So with physical versions of games, there are deluxe editions, collector's editions, limited edition, all these different types of things that don't exist on the digital or the subscription side. Maybe you can buy the content on the digital side, but you'll be paying a premium and not getting any of the extra, goodies that come along with it, whether that's, special packaging, a soundtrack, diorama, a little figurine, anything that they decide to put in these, special edition games. And to be honest, these games end up going up in value. Like sealed copy of the master edition of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I've seen going for like anywhere from $15 to $2,000 on eBay. And the other pro with that is that you can open it, enjoy the game, and then still sell it, not as much as if it was sealed, but you still get a big return on that. So if anywhere down the line, which a few of us have done, is, hey, I don't really feel like gaming, maybe I'll get back into it later, or maybe I just don't care about this game anymore after I beat it, I can sell it later down the line, maybe 5 years, 10 years later, and either it's retained its value, I might, lose a little money, but, I can do something else with it that I couldn't if it wasn't physical. And then my last pro for having a physical game is it's kind of more on the niche side, but it's just the fact that you can have a nice collection. So, some people are into just having collectible items, whether that's, vinyl records, video games, sneakers, things like that. Like, people like collections. They like displaying it. They like having a different type of element to their gaming room or living room, and it just, looks nice just having things physically there. People like having physical items to look at or touch. So that's a little more niche, but that still works for a lot of people. Now, the cons on the physical side. So I think the biggest one for a lot of people is just that it's pretty cumbersome to just have a lot of physical stuff. Especially during a pandemic, a lot of people have been moving towards just, less things, just minimalism, not having a bunch of stuff or having to make space, or if you're moving or changing rooms around or doing spring cleaning, you just have too much stuff to move around. It's easy to lose, things like that, where it's just like, if you don't have physical, you just go the digital route. You can just fire up a game, play whatever, switch to another game. It's kind of like, it's just more convenient. So when it comes to the physical side, you got to get up, find a disc, put the other one back, maybe buy a case that you wouldn't have to store all your games, spending more money. If you get more games, you're gonna have to get a bigger case. It just ends up being like kind of like this cumbersome task to play a game, and you might end up just leaving the same game in your system and just playing that until you won, instead of being able to switch between a bunch of games that you own. The other con, the physical, is that, let's say the next generation of a system doesn't necessarily have, let's say, backwards compatibility where you can put the actual disc in the system. So let's say like the digital PS5 that we mentioned, or the Xbox Series S. If you didn't buy a game digitally and you sign into your account on those systems, it won't recognize that you actually bought the game physically, because you could have got that physical game from anywhere. You could have got it from a friend, you could have got it from, the store, and then, just don't have it anymore or returned it or anything. And it wouldn't make sense for you to be able to just log into your account on a system and be able to play or re-download a game that you had before just because you played it physically. So when you have a digital game, you can just re-download, sign in with your account, and then make that system your new system, and that's just a little more convenient. So if you have a physical game or physical library, you pretty much are handcuffed to keeping your old system to play it sometimes, or just hoping that that next system is backwards compatible and will actually be able to take the games that you own physically. Now let's talk about what a lot of people prefer, which is digital. So the pros of digital are, the first one is the con, or the opposite of the con for the physical that I mentioned, which was just convenience. A lot of people don't feel like getting up, changing a game, stacking up their games. It looks a little ugly depending on your setup. Physical is just very convenient, especially, with these systems nowadays, especially with the Nintendo Switch. It's a hybrid. Maybe you're traveling, you don't feel like carrying a bunch of games. You just have your whole library there digitally. You don't have to pick, hey, do I want to bring these 3 games, or do I just want to bring 2? Do I just, you just have all the options there if your library is digital. The other pro is that a lot of these websites have digital sales a lot of the times. Nintendo, not always so much, maybe like around like Mario Day or near the end of the year, Black Friday, or just random end of the month eShop sales, but it'll depend on the game. You won't always get, first party games on sale, but there are a ton of digital sales that you can get. So you can get games that instead of spending, $60 or whatever, you can get it for, 40 or 35 or anything like that. They'll just have random sales on different websites, and there's so many different outlets now that like somewhere it might be on sale, and then maybe on Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony's actual marketplace it'll still be full price, but you can find it digitally or get a digital code from another retailer that just happens to have it cheaper. So that's another option. Now the cons to digital is just that again, digital and physical, pretty much their pros and cons are going to just reflect each other. So one of the pros for physical is being able to, borrow or trade or, cash in on your collection. When it comes to digital, once you buy it and it's, you own it, that's pretty much it. It's kind of hard to sell that to someone else unless you pretty much give them your account, which I don't think a lot of people want to do. So if you download a game, that's it. You paid full price, you paid half price, whatever you paid, you'll never be able to get that back. That's it. You just paid it. Yeah, you have the convenience, but now that's it. You can't do anything with that game. You can't give it to anybody else. You can't. It's pretty much just locked to you. So you kind of own it, but now you're kind of stuck with it, and whatever you spent is what you spent. The other con is that, let's say you downloaded a game onto your system and you lose that system or something like that, or maybe you don't have the money to buy another one. Now that's it. You can't pop in your game into someone else's, like a friend's DS or your brother's DS or Switch or Xbox or whatever, because you bought it digitally. So now that's locked to that system you bought it on, unless you log into another system and download everything again. But if you don't own it, then that's it. You can't do anything with that. So if you had a physical version of the game, until you get a new system for yourself, you pretty much can't play anything. Now we get into our final option when it comes to gaming. It's pretty new, I'd say about 5 years old now, but it's subscription service. Everyone has a subscription service, whether it's Hulu, Netflix, GameFly, any of this stuff. But the big ones we want to talk about is Game Pass, PS Plus, and the Nintendo Switch Online. So we'll start with Nintendo. When it comes to Nintendo Switch Online, you don't really have any options of downloading any new games on there. Like, they don't put new games. They pretty much have just the retro stuff. So they have the emulated versions of Game Boy, Super Nintendo, NES, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, stuff like that. So you don't really have a lot of options, because realistically, those games, you can't play them any other way unless you own those old systems. There's no backwards compatibility there, but there's no new games on there. So, Nintendo, and I don't think they will, because they put a premium on their games, they will not add any new games on there. So Nintendo's subscription service isn't the best when it comes to this. But when you go over to PlayStation, they have PS Plus. They have PS Plus, PS Plus Extra, PS Plus Essential, PS Plus Premium, and they'll have newer games on there, especially the premium tier. They'll have some PS5 games that maybe came out a year ago or 2 years ago. They'll have, PS4. They have the PlayStation Collection, which is like the best PlayStation 4 games on there. They have a bunch of different options. So let's say you don't care about owning a game, or you don't want to buy it digitally. Once you beat a game, you pretty much don't pick it up again. The subscription service is a good option for you. So when it comes to PlayStation, you could say, hey, I just finished The Last of Us. I want to play the game, but, let's say it's $10. You, instead of spending $10 to then buy the physical game that you will only be able to sell for maybe $3, or you'll just end up keeping it for no reason, you can just say, hey, I'm going to buy PlayStation Plus for a month. It's $8. I'll be able to play Last of Us. Oh, they also got God of War on here. Oh, they also have Uncharted 4. So now, instead of paying more or the equivalent of 1 month of the subscription service, you can just pay that and then be able to play the game you want to, beat it, and then maybe you got some time left in the month, or maybe you buy 2 months and you got time to play some other games you would have ended up spending 30 or 40 bucks a pop on. So that's kind of where the pros where it comes to the subscription service. And then what is being considered, the top, best deal in gaming right now is Xbox Game Pass. When it comes to Xbox Game Pass, you now have not only a giant library of video games to play, you have a bunch of backwards compatible games with Xbox, you have Xbox Game Studios first party games on there on day one. They're also doing deals with third parties to have the games on their day one. So instead of spending 60, 70, whatever you would spend, you can spend, let's say, $10 for the regular or $15 for the ultimate tier for 1 month of Game Pass. You can check when certain games are going to go on Game Pass and just be like, okay, this is the month I want to buy it. And it's not like how PS Plus is or how Xbox Live Gold used to be, where 1 month is more expensive to buy month to month as opposed to buying it for a year. Game Pass is the exact same price if you bought 3 months, a year, 1 month. It's all the same. The price doesn't fluctuate that way. So there's no deal there. So you can literally go in, buy, let's say, 3 months, say, hey, I got, Minecraft Legends coming out in April. I got Redfall coming out in May, and then I got Elder Scrolls Online coming out in June. So I can play all three of those games for the price of, let's say, $30 at the minimum if you want to play online, paying $45 as opposed to paying $70 a pop for each one of those games. So, when it comes to the subscription service, that's just, you just have a little bit more flexibility there instead of buying a game outright that you may not care to buy outright, especially if it's digital. And then the other, pro when it comes to subscription services, a lot of times you can get games on sale, like only for subscribers. So you might have a game that's normally $40, but if you're a subscriber, you could get it for $32, $30, maybe $35, which is a little cheaper, but it's like, hey, I really like this game. My subscription's going to end. I don't really care to have a subscription anymore, but I really want this game. So I'm just going to buy it digitally, and then I'll own it from that point. And, I get it at a cheaper discount than I would if I didn't buy it like that. Now, of course, the biggest con to these subscription services is that you don't own the games. Like, you only have access to the games. You're allowed to download the games if you are subscribed. As soon as you're not subscribed, you can't play the games anymore. So you may spend, who knows, 1,000 hours in Destiny, 300 hours in Halo, all this, and then you don't have your subscription service anymore. Now you can't play those games anymore. So, it's, again, you kind of just have to weigh it. If there's like a certain game you want to play, you don't mind waiting for it to hit the subscription service or go on sale or whatever the heck, you can kind of decide how you want to play it from there. And that pretty much wraps it up, guys. So that's my pros and cons on, physical versus digital versus subscription service. And, I think for most people, you're going to fall somewhere in between all three of these. Certain things you buy digitally, some you subscribe to, and some you buy physically. So just saying for myself, for Xbox, I pretty much only have Game Pass. Like anything I buy, maybe I'll buy a digital game on sale because most physical Xbox games, they don't retain their value like that. And with Game Pass, it's whatever. Once I play the game, like I'm getting my money's worth. Like if I bought a game for $50 and now I own it physically, but I can only sell it for $20, I lost $30. If I buy a month of Game Pass for $10 and I beat the game, I only spent $10 instead of losing $30 buying it physically. So that's pretty much why I stay with Xbox. With PlayStation, I'll buy their first party games like God of War, Spider-Man, stuff like that. But other than that, I might, grab a month of PS Plus or something for certain games like PS4 games or whatever. But I'm not spending too much money there. And with Nintendo, it's kind of, up in the air. Sometimes if I could find a game physically cheaper on eBay, that's what I'll do. Most of the time, Nintendo games retain their value, so I do get the majority. I'd say like 85 to 90% of my Nintendo games are physical. There are some I wish I got physical instead of digital, but that's just how it goes. So like I said, I just wanted to lay out for you guys all the pros and cons of each, and then it varies. It varies by person, consumer, it varies on the situation, the game, the quality of the game, the platform you're buying on, everything. So y'all let me know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you do? Are you a digital person? Are you mostly physical? Are you just subscription service? Are you somewhere in between all three of them? Let me know what you thought about, my reasonings. And leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you in the next video.